One of the biggest stressors as a solopreneur and managing your own business is how do you manage the sheer amount of email that comes in every day? And how can you have an AI assistant to manage it? And that is definitely a problem that I have had and I wanted to solve for myself. So I built an automation that leverages AI to do several steps to manage this. So let me just give you an example of my afternoon's worth of email, right? So I've just got an afternoon's worth of email in here that I need to process. What I've done is I've created different buckets that things come into, and I want to have my assistant classify it, and then if it's appropriate, draft responses to them that then go into my replies where I can review them and make sure that they sound like me and they're ready to go. So let me walk you through what this does. On a schedule, it will run this automation at midnight, 7 a.m., 10 a.m., 1 p.m., 4 p.m., 7 p.m. And so it runs it every day and goes through several steps. First, it gets all of my unread email in my inbox. That's what these fields do. And then it sets a few variables to be sure that the last person that it has touched is me, and it's waiting on me to do something. And then it classifies things according to a bucket. And I've got a fairly sophisticated ChatGPT module in here that will go through and figure out what it is that this email is about. So I have some for AuthorNation questions, for newsletters, receipts, sales pitches, invoices, transactions that I've paid, social media, meeting assets, fraud alerts, security alerts, legal documents, if people want to book a call with me, if they've requested a refund. And then I've got ones that are very specific according to the different areas of my business. So I have Indie Author Magazine, Indie Author Training, Direct to Readers, Author Automations. And that together with AuthorNation are the projects that I'm currently working on. What I've done there is if it's in one of those major buckets, it goes through a filter and it will get information from a Google Doc that I have set up. So for example, here's the master document for AuthorNation. Here's the master document for Author Automations. Here's the master document for Direct to Readers. Here's the master document for Indie Author Training. Here's the master document for Indie Author Magazine. So it knows a lot of the core information about each of those. Now, I expect that as I go along, I'll start adding to that document, but I can also have my team add to this shared document. So as we go along, if we start seeing more support tickets or different things in different areas, we can add to these core documents. So it's a way for us to have a database without building out a big database. And then it will draft a reply based on the information that's in there. So what I'm going to do is I've finished building all of this out, and then it has a bunch of different labels and things that it's going to label, and then it's going to send it through if it's not in one of these major buckets. So if it's just a social media, it will label it as social media and move it off to a filter. So I am left with, hopefully, just email that I have to deal with at the end of it. So I'm going to execute this and you'll see how it all runs through here. So I'm going to go back over here. I have it turned off right now because I'm going to do this manually. Normally it's turned on right here. And I'm just going to hit execute workflow. And then we're just going to kind of watch it. It's getting the threads, it's getting the messages, then it's going to run through and classify all of them and figure out exactly what it needs to do. The other thing that's really interesting is that it gets the entire thread of the email, not just the last response. So it has a wide context of things that are happening. It's not going to just pick up the last thing, which might not have any information about it. So now it's going through and you can see that it's processing so far 13 items, 15 items, 15 items, and then it's going through and testing against all of these to see what it is. 17, 18, 19. You can see it's got 24 to deal with right here. So we should be getting close to 24. And then it's going to go through. This one is an AuthorNation email, so it's drafting a response. It's deciding what to do there. It's going back and forth between the AuthorNation document and the drafty message model so that it's following it along. And then you'll see in a second, it's either going to just label it and archive it, or it's going to, in this case, draft a reply. Now it's going through all of these. So now it's gone through 2 down here, 3 down here, 2 AuthorNations. So it's processing all the email pretty smoothly. And in a second, you'll see while it's executing the workflow, nothing's changing in my inbox. But in just a minute, I'll be able to hit refresh when this is all done. Okay, so workflow is executed successfully. So now I should be able to come up and you can see it's processed all my email and it's created drafts for each of these for me to go through. So now I can buzz through here and I can just be sure that they've got everything that they need. So here's author automations. These have been classified. Here's AuthorNation email. I don't have any call confirmations. Here's a direct to readers. Here's a couple meeting requests. Now, one of the modules that I have in there are tasks. These are things that have to be added to Notion so that it will process tasks. And I can see that it's got some tasks in there. I've got some transactions. It caught my Chase credit card statement, my American Express. So anything that's related to my finances goes in there. Here's a couple of social media ones. So it's got my Google and it's got my TikTok shop stuff. It's got all the sales pitches. Here's my receipts. You can see it posted. Here's my PEC posted. So it's catching everything that it needs to catch. Here's the read later. So it's got all my newsletters in there. So yeah, it caught everything that I needed it to catch. So now all I need to do is go in and open up these drafts and reply to them. So here's one, here's a reply. Thanks very much for reaching out. The best way to get to my calendar is through this link. Pick a time that works for you and it'll be confirmed automatically. So that absolutely is what I would say. So I'm just going to hit send and then I'm done with that one. Now I'll go through the rest of these and that will be my email for the day.